Okay, well, welcome everyone. This is the virtual Yoga Samadhi, our Tuesday evening gathering, and we can begin with a chant. We chant the Metta Sutta. Normally at Yoga Samadhi, we would begin with a chant, and it's always nice to bring to mind through the chanting some kind of Dhamma reflection, some kind of theme or just recollection. And so many of the chants are recollections of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha in many different ways. So we could chant the Buddha's words on loving kindness. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another, or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking,
seated or
lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Okay, so we could take the opportunity to sit quietly and just gathering attention into the body, gathering attention into the mind, gathering attention into the present moment, allowing our attention to be clear and well established, firmly established, not too tight, not too loose, not too contracted, um, not too scattered. Sense of just right is always um, a goal, somewhat elusive goal. Getting that just right quality, this nice balance, this middle way, um, which is applicable for the meditation. It's applicable for how we live our life, approach our engagement with the world, how we approach our view of the world, our wisdom and discernment faculty, a sense of just right. So just right always requires a certain element of let's say curiosity is something. It's not just applying a formula um, or trying to make the mind conform to some idea that we have. It's just paying attention to the experience, is settling into the experience of the body, of the breath, of the mind, of the heart, allowing it to settle, allowing ourselves to actually be present. So we can sit quietly for a bit and then we'll give a few further reflections, thoughts on the Dhamma. Okay, so we could have just a quick break. Um, Stretch your legs a bit as is needed, and then come back in a couple minutes. Okay, so we can just establish our attention. I'll give a bit of a reflection, and then open it up for some questions after. I think one of the themes that is always important to be recollecting, reminding ourselves of, and using as a theme of for Dhamma is just the nature of the body. It's like one of the chants that the Buddha, one of the chants that we do comes from a teaching that the Buddha gives of themes for frequent recollection, and in particular the theme of aging, of uh, of illness, of death. Those are themes, and it sometimes you might roll your eyes and, oh, those Buddhists are always going on about getting old and sick and dying, and that. But it's really important, and it's not just sort of oh, isn't this miserable? It's looking at the that sense of limitation and reality that we all experience, and we all um, don't want to experience, um, but it is there is an inevitability uh, um, about that, and that's it's really helpful to be considering just that sense of how. Yeah, I think one of the things is how the Buddha frames it in that way. We it's such a direct, a directly experienceable reality of just impermanence, of change, of instability, of uncertainty, um, and that's it's really helpful to be able to make it tangible like that. The being able to see it as something that is really yeah, this is unsatisfactory. It's not. This is not. This is not perfection. This is limitation, um, and that it is not so. So these anicca dukkha anatta are the elements of reflection that take us to a place uh, of insight and relinquishment and liberation. So as much as we can take on board the realities of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and not self, um, then that gives us a doorway into um, into liberation. It's not, um, and it's something very tangible, as opposed to just I would say an intellectual concept. Um, and it's easy to put it out there of, yes, there is this impermanence, uncertainty. Yes, there is this element of dukkha and unsatisfactoriness. Yes, there is this sense of not me, not mine, not myself. But it can be, we can distance ourselves from it. We can conceptualize it. We put it out there. And as long as we keep putting it out there, then we're actually deflecting attention away from truth, away from the true nature of things. So that being able to, yeah, this element of aging, sickness, and death, um, and also, I mean, just reflecting on the way that the Buddha himself presented it or referred to it. Um, in many suttas, the Buddha refers to it as a divine messenger. These are divine messengers, and usually when we think of a divine messenger, it's not aging, sickness, and death. A divine messenger, some lovely celestial being coming and presenting themselves to us, and touching us on the head, and we get all sort of clouds of brilliant light and dazzling insight. And the Buddha said, no, this is a divine messenger is one that um, gives us say that important reality into truth, and is a catalyst for insight, understanding, for relinquishment, for release. Um, and there's an interesting discourse where the Buddha is referring to that of. I mean, it's kind of a little fable, and they where somebody is they die, and they're met by Yama, the king of death. This personification of the kind of I think in most religions there's some kind of one who receives people on their death and sends them off to different fates or different destinations, and then um, and Yama, the king of death, and in Buddhist say mythology, or it's like Yama is holding up a mirror to us so we can look at ourselves, which sometimes that's not so comfortable either. But that's but anyway, in this little fable, Yama asks this person, did you live your life conducting yourself in good conduct and well established in integrity and virtue, and living the principles of truth, and the kind of the person is oh no, I was negligent, and then did you not see the divine messengers? Did you not recognize the divine messengers? And he said, I did not. I didn't see any divine messengers anywhere. And he said, oh, did you never see an old person, one who was advanced in years, losing their vitality, not having uh, all their teeth? That's me. I've been going through this. I just came back from the dentist yesterday. I think next month, I should have teeth again, which was remember the just this past. It was about last week. One of the offerings on alms round was corn on the cob, and it's just, it's just well, I really need I need I'm missing my corn on the cob teeth. This is hard to manage. So there. Anyway, there was a divine messenger. Did you not see an aged person who's their limbs are failing, vitality is failing, um, and body's experiencing limitation? I did not, Lord. I said, well, he said that you will be the the owner of your actions. What you've done wasn't done by your mother, your father, or your friends, or your relatives, or by anybody else. It was done by you, and you'll have to reap the fruits. And it's then you sort of goes the divine messenger of aging, divine messenger of illness, divine messenger of death. They're around us all around, and it's with that recognition, and the Buddha is quite so with that recognition of these divine messengers, these elements of nature, reality of how things are. One establishes oneself in what is noble, and one is committed to a noble actions of body, speech, and mind. And I think that is so. It's not like a reflection on aging, sickness, and death, so that we can get depressed and miserable. It's a reflection so that we can recognize, okay, yeah, we whatever I do, um, I'm I receive the fruits of those actions, or I'm influenced by that. I experience it, and I really I can't waste time. I need to establish myself in what is truly noble, what's truly good. To and that's a you think, well, it's because oftentimes people we want to contemplate the refined elements of meditation, or the nature of consciousness and the nature of nibbana, and you can't even restrain yourself from dissing somebody, or speaking poorly, or dissing oneself. I mean, the kind of the inner commentary that goes on about our own perceptions of ourselves. I mean, those are that's just like a negligence, that is not recognizing the the the, the kind of the realities, and employing that reflection of that the divine messengers are giving us, so in order to establish a sense of clarity and determination, and clarity of discernment. So that the sense, we are in this world of our this body, this mind, this world around us, and um, we need to reflect on what is it that is going to help establish ourselves, and something that is always essential is reflecting on the tendency to to be drawn into it's like the liking and the disliking, um, kind of liking and disliking, wanting, not wanting, approving, not approving, within our realm of experience. This constant switching back and forth, and it's like being blown around by what the Buddha calls the worldly winds, um, where we are. Uh, we get excited about being praised. And we get kind of irritated or depressed about any kind of blame or criticism. We get all excited about success, whether it's worldly success or we got to have a successful meditation. We get all excited, and failure, success and failure are because we take it so personally, and create a value system around that where we're constantly going kind of up and down, bouncing around, and just that sense of approaching. And when I can remember, in early years of living with Ajahn and and that was a theme that would come up over and over again. And so because you tune into the language because you don't understand the language, and you start hearing phrases over and over again. And in the Thai, it says yin di yin rai, and it's like that that sense of gladness and sadness, the liking and not liking, that being delighted or being depressed by something, and that movement of mind. And, and as we practice, it's not so much that we're trying to, say, get rid of liking and disliking, or gladness and sadness, and then achieve a state of nothing, sort of, I'm going to say, kind of a solid, immovable neutrality. Which is not the goal, but it's the clarity and space that's able to recognize that movement and how the mind moves, and to not be shaken by that, to not be dragged along behind it, not to be running after it, trying to catch up. Those are all tiring responses to our experience of the world, and we can. There's obviously things in the world that are, on a conventional level, they're pleasing, and then and there's some things that are kind of not at all pleasing, kind of abhorrent, but one can recognize the inclination to move, and sort of, and have the clarity of the mind of saying, yeah, that's not me, not mine. That remember one year Ajahn Amaro coming to visit us, and he'd learned a new phrase somewhere of sort of, not, I think it was a Polish saying. It's not my monkey, not my circus. And just that sense of you see a mood of an inclination, a circumstance, or either externally or internally, that's either or delightful, pleasing, usually sought after, and okay, chasing after it is tiring, um, and inevitably fraught. And the same with the something that's really on a conventional level. It's just, well, this is unpleasant. This is unwanted, and and then not my monkey, not my circus. You sort of deal with it skillfully, come back to clarity and understanding, and what is it that aligns oneself with the kind of the refuge of Dhamma, that is like that. This is peaceful. This is sublime. That's with us all the time. That opportunity, so that being able to yeah, give oneself that opportunity, um, and that's where this practice, the whole practice of the Dhamma, the whole path of the Buddhas, of sila, of samadhi, of panya, of virtue, of meditation, of wisdom. This is where it's taking one to a place of refuge that is unshaken. Um, Again, it's not that there's uh, uh, any movement because you're holding it so tight. It's like it's so. I remember somebody mentioned like Ajahn Chah was a good example. Ajahn Buddhadasa was another uh, example. Sort of like, these people are like mountains that are just they're immovable. They're solid, and it doesn't really matter what I think about them or what or what seemingly happens to them. They are solid, and so that sense of we all have that capability. We all have that opportunity. And there's a lot of it is just where do we place our attention? Um, bringing attention back to divine messengers, reminding ourselves of the limitation of aging, of sickness, of death. These are ordinary, inevitable, and not at all not at all scary. Um, uh, I was last a few days ago. We were talking at tea time here, um, and I brought up we were talking about Luang Por Liam, and how he was adapting to one. He had about he was just starting heart disease, congestive heart failure. Congestive heart failure with about 20 percent of his heart function still remaining, and it was hard for people to recognize how sick he was until they prevailed on him to go and see a doctor. People noticed that he was tiring more quickly, but he wasn't complaining. And certainly wasn't making a fuss of it, and then sort of getting the doctor's diagnosis and prognosis, in the sense that it's with a procedures, adding stints and whatnot. It was rectifiable, or at least you could work with it and get back heart function and of course everybody is trying to prevail on him, and Lupa Liam is a bit skeptical of medical procedures of any kind, and then but then people making the case for, well, you should really try to really it will extend your life and can bring benefit to many beings and make yourself more comfortable in the present, and all these logical reasons. And nobody thinking back, and his one of his comments is, living, dying, it's the same thing. And it was just, just have this incredibly spacious reality that he was able to dwell on. And of course, and he did have the procedures, and he's been in good health. That was about 15 years ago, so he's been a blessing for so many people. But that that sense of expansive perception and not getting entangled in the okay, aging, sickness, death. These are realities, but it's not. It's not a disaster, and it's a motivation for this living nobly and being a benefit to oneself, being a benefit to others. So I'll offer that for reflection this evening, and it looks like there's some questions. Trying to scroll up. Okay, question. For those of us without access to local Dhamma teachers or a supportive community, can online Dhamma teachers and lay practitioners meet our needs for good spiritual friends? Well, you have to be able to rely on what you've got, and that there are many and that's one of the blessings of say like these live streams and these online communities where one can develop a sense of connection with other practitioners, other people, teachers, and teachings themselves, and I mean, a lot of it is just applying some a bit of reflection and discernment of what is it that, because there's so much available that it can be a bit overwhelming or a bit endless, or I mean it's like going into the supermarket and down the cereal aisle, which is it's just kind of endless. Um, so that you have to sort of, in the same way that when you go down the cereal aisle at the supermarket, well, what's actually healthy, what's going to be useful for me, what's beneficial. So that in the same way, applying that same kind of reflection, and okay, there are all these teachings and teachers and practitioners and communities out there. What is what do I draw myself close to, and what is going to um, be beneficial? So it is it's what we've got in this modern era, and certainly in a kind of era of global pandemic, then it's it's a great blessing to be able to have these online forums. Um, but you also have to learn how to use it skillfully, and so it's so many even if you have a really accomplished teacher and an exceptional community of lay practitioners, um, we still have to do the practice. Um, and it's like having a incredible buffet meal out there with all these, and then one either just gets overwhelmed, or one gets we get or goes walking around like criticizing everything or confused by it all. I mean, that's us. Uh, and so that we have to take responsibility for those choices that we make. And of course, that's where it's helpful to have these. Okay, aging, sickness, and death. Bring it back. Make it real. Make this practice real. Don't go get too out there into the kind of the ether of idealized spiritual states or projections about it. And so, what's real, what's useful, what's beneficial. But again, it's there are opportunities, and say it's like I mean, I just noticed one of the a part of the thread in this is the having a sit and as a group. There's this Tamir has a little note there, and which is great, because that's people taking responsibility, people kind of gathering together, and you can help support each other, encourage each other, and that's really useful. Another question on can you offer some advice for lay people taking the 8 precepts at home to avoid distractions? Well, I think the one is I mean, those are the 8 precepts are what are called renunciant precepts. They're not moral precepts. I mean, there's part of them are moral precepts. Of course, not killing, not stealing, not lying, not engaging in sexual misconduct. But then the aspect of renunciant precepts are it's like a refinement, and that's not. I say it's a practice of nekama, and I don't know that there's a really good alternative translation to renunciation in the English language. But nekama is like that aspiration to simplicity, aspiration to peace, aspiration to a solid spiritual foundation. So that say like the third precept of stepping back from rather than avoiding sexual misconduct, it's sort of stepping back from engaging in sexual expression, and then a sense of creating a kind of structure or simplicity around food and entertainment and one's simplicity of say, in sleep and resting. So that's something that one can. One of the things is taking them on, especially when they're renunciant precepts. It's like taking them on in a way that is really okay. What's helpful for me? Because again, we can easily idealize. Oh, we've got to be incredibly okay. I'm going to be a renunciant, and I'm going to really be really strict with myself, and I've got an ideal of, and it can be too much. I remember one time going. There's a woman I know in Thailand, and extremely wealthy, and there was a period when her there's all sorts of there's all sorts of construction on their road going into her house, her compound where her house was. And one, it was very noisy, and it was also, it was kind of dirty, and then it was very difficult to get in and out. So she just went to a hotel and rented a suite. Was just a hotel. She rented a suite, and then and it was invited Ajahn Sumedho and myself to have the meal at where she was, and so then we go, and it's very nice hotel, and it's a whole very large suite, and she said, and then she had her servants at another couple rooms of there, off, and then, so anyways, this is a level of comfort that I'm certainly not used to, and most of us aren't. But anyway, she was really excited because she was experimenting with the 8 precepts, and she had and she took us into her like the bedroom, and then showed, and she had this little mat beside the bed, and she and was sleeping on the floor, and I'm sleeping on the bed, and it was, I thought it was incredibly sweet, and for for her, I mean, that was a renunciation, and so you have to approach it in a way that is, what's suitable or useful for oneself. What is a way of say both supporting oneself as well as challenging oneself, and moving in the direction simplicity, because it's the simplicity is not there for the the, the I'd say that conforming to that some kind of ideal standard, but it's a simplicity that allows us to reflect on the mind of greed, hatred, delusion, to be able to reflect on the mind of habit and conditioning, and how to relinquish the sense of identity and self that we carry. So that all of that is these are supports for practice. So that picking up the 8 precepts and saying, well, how can I make it useful? What are my duties and responsibilities within the home? I mean, home is, it can mean different things for different people, in the sense of, home is where you live as an individual, and you're living by yourself. You have your own living conditions, or it might be you have a partner that you're um, um, that you're with, and you've got to negotiate that, navigate that. Or you've got, maybe it's like a whole family situation, So then, what does that mean in terms of how does one use that? How does one work with it? How do you negotiate that so that it's and how do you use it for learning? I think that's a really important element. Any reflections on that?
Just looking at the question, also how to avoid distractions, I think, while you're following the 8 precepts, and just, if it's assuming that it's like a practice you're taking up for, a day, like on a Wan Pra observance day or something. I'm not sure quite the way the question was phrased, if that was part of it, but just, adding some structure to that particular day that you're observing the 8 precepts, if it's just for the day, and unplugging your devices, unplugging your television, setting up a bit of a routine to take some time at a certain time to read and reflect, or have a Dhamma discussion with someone in your household that's maybe joining in, having a schedule of meditation, really setting up a little day-long retreat structure, with clear activities that don't include things that can be distracting, might be useful. So,
great, thanks. Okay, Luang Por Pasanno recently talked about tranquility and meditation as ultimately just another conditioned phenomena. Could you talk about the importance / relevance of tranquility on the path? It's extremely important, and saying, that it's ultimately just another conditioned phenomena doesn't mean it's not necessary. Reflection on and insight into anicca, dukkha, anatta is also just another conditioned phenomena. And that's important. Keeping precepts and having a solid foundation and virtue and integrity is another. It's just another conditioned phenomena. It's incredibly important. So these are all important in that they come together as a supportive elements of this path. And I think that sometimes we can reify, say, states of tranquility or states of meditation, and make it into a solid object and forget. And we can do that with everything. Um, our concepts of ideas of refuge, or concepts and ideas of say, like, one of the things that, say, like, taking a concept of that's part of the Dhamma vocabulary, the emptiness, and turning it into a reified, solid thing. And so no, it's all these all the different elements of our experience, whether they're prosaic or refined. Man, I mean, they're all conditioned. Everything that isn't nibbana is conditioned. But that doesn't mean to say it's not necessary, relevant, important. It's just getting the balance of it, so that it does give us the tools for releasing the heart. Okay. Good evening, Ajahns. Any tips for how to stay in the first jhana? I find it very difficult to stay with. Well, I think one of the things is just investigate the way that one is, again, the sense of conceiving of it, reifying it. Okay, I'm pretty sure I got this first jhana. Now I gotta hold it. Okay, so it ends up being an object. Can you find a way to delight in ease, in peace, in well-being, and one is also the attending to the pleasurable aspect of it, not just a physical pleasure or an excitement about it as an idea, but as a physical experience, a sense of just dropping the tension of striving, dropping the kind of agitation of restlessness, just releasing the kind of entanglements of judging, and just allowing that pleasure to of stepping back, of settling, to as in the constant refrain in the suttas that first steeps and fills, pervades and permeates this body, and it's got back into the body with steeps and fills, permeates and pervades this body with the pleasure associated with seclusion, and that viveka, that stepping back. So that's how it is attending to that well-being, that pleasure, bringing it back into the body, allowing it to, and the image of the bathman or bathman's apprentice kneading the soap. The images are really important to give a clue of how to work with that. Okay. What is the difference between thinking and contemplation? Well, say on one level, they are the same thing. I mean, in the sense that it's employing the thought processes, so that that sense of the conceiving of the mind, the movement of the mind. I mean, it is a thinking process. If it's just sort of random thinking, then it can be kind of scattered or not really have clear objects. But when it's employed and directed skillfully, that's contemplation, is being able to pick up a theme and to be able to follow through on that theme. And then contemplation also is sometimes the thinking process is helpful for contemplation, and sometimes just creating the space and clarity of attention without having to think too much is part of the contemplation process as well. So um, maybe those are a bit of differences. Any thoughts on that?
Just I can't remember the actual um, etymology, but the word contemplation has, I think, some reference to temple, contemplative or contemplation, and it's like bringing in the skillful qualities into the temple of the heart, with with the heart or into the heart. I remember, I think Ajahn Sumedho made some reference to that etymology at some point. So it's the templum or the temple of the heart. So it is just as you were saying, that kind of bringing up, whether it's words or involved with words or not, bringing up something for recollection and consideration and experiencing it.
Okay, here's another question. When I was a kid, I was taught to have faith that God will provide for our survival needs as he provides for the birds. In what does a monk have faith that he will have his survival needs met? Well, I don't know. There's a lot of dead birds out there sometimes. And cycles of anyway. That's I just think of the old Arabic saying of trust in Allah, but tie up your camel. You, yes, you want to have that faith in God, but you also have to be a bit proactive and have some discernment, application of discernment. There was in what does a monk have faith that he will have his survival needs met? Fundamentally sila, virtue. That is where the faith is, in terms of, okay, I can keep the precepts, I can keep the live a noble life. I can make these choices that are noble, and I think when one does that, people will want to draw close, want to help out, and appreciate the benefit of that. Just having beings in the world who are committed to virtue and integrity. That's Ajahn Chah used to say that over and over again. You want to experience you say the benefits of having alms food, of having a roof over your head, having robes to wear, medicines when you're sick. Keep the precepts. That's your basic foundation. Any thoughts? No.
It says it well.
Uh, okay, and then do monks also go through anxiety and worries related to running the monastery and getting food for next day? And if yes, how do you deal with them? Well, I mean, that's just as I just mentioned in terms of, okay, keep the precepts, do the practice, um, and that's the main thing. Obviously there's going to be practical issues that need to be dealt with in order to. Uh, it's not like magical thinking where you're going to sit back and everything's going to happen. You need to pay attention to the practical uh, uh, details. Uh, uh, any details about how to do it properly, how things should need to be organized and whatnot. But it is important to recognize, yes, this needs to be dealt with, but the whole element of anxiety and worry is another added element of that's something that we're adding to that. Yes, there are things that need to be looked after, but then the anxiety and worry is an emotional reaction to that we need to be reflecting on in order to because that's suffering, and part of the um, I think all monks, um, you go through some kind of anxiety or desire. Even if you're not running a monastery, like one of the things we used to do as young monks, part of our training, take on the Dhutanga practices of, say, just eating what is been offered on alms round, and especially in northeast of Thailand, and that's it really is not a sure thing that you're going to get a full meal, because the tradition in the northeast of Thailand is to offer mainly just sticky rice on alms round, and everybody can do that. Everybody has rice that they can share. And then some people might give, maybe a banana or a dried fish or something fairly simple. But the majority of the food would be when they come uh, to uh, to the monastery to prepare food or bring food from home, and then it's offered together. And but if you've taken on the practice of uh, of not uh, eating what's or just eating what's offered in alms round, then what is offered at the monastery is then outside your realm. So when you take on that, it becomes really uncertain. So then you get really honed in. The mind starts to see, because usually the way they offer, they have like these little wicker woven baskets and sticky rices in there, and then especially as a junior monk, I mean, you might be toward the back of the line. So, or you can spot a lame person with a plate that might have something other than rice on it, and you can spot that a mile away. But then you're also, gosh, I wonder what's there. How many? I'm sixth or seventh. Maybe there's only so I mean, the mind proliferates too. But that's that's what our minds do. It generates anxiety and worry. And so whether it's on and it's suffering, and you how do I let go? How do I release that? How do I have a sense of ease and acceptance with whatever happens? You do what you can do. So in the same of say running say like running a monastery, I have a responsibility for a monastery. Then yeah, you do what needs to be done, and especially as a I mean, I was an abbot for 35 years, so I got a lot of experience. And by the time I came to America, I'd been an abbot for 15 years. So I'd seen my mind go through all sorts of things, and work through quite a lot. But it's an ongoing process of letting go. Any reflections?
No, I think just the less you expect, the happier you are, and
Yes, exactly. That's
and
really that's a
so
really important element of that anxiety and worry is grounded on an expectation of I should get a certain kind of food. I should have a certain amount of food. Should I have a certain?
I need to have
I
my
need to have.
vegetables. I need to have my protein. I need
And
to
then,
have my.
and it's just and just that's when you are willing to relinquish those expectations, and yeah, worry and anxiety are not a problem. One last question is: I have trouble not reacting while witnessing or being abused. Any advice? Oh, well, I mean, one is I mean, yeah, I mean, it is disturbing, and 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 there's an element of similar. Well, what control do I have of the situation? Uh, is it a situation that I should be a part of anyway? What am I? What am I? What am I? Who am I involved with? How am I involved with it? What element of control do I have so that I can step back? Uh, the world is not a fair place. The world is not a place of and that kind of well, shouldn't be like this. Uh, they shouldn't have said that. They shouldn't have done that. Well, of course they shouldn't have. But it's how one is, how much how much control, how much that's why one of the things that the Buddha said, it says what are blessings and what are not associating with fools. Um, that's and fools being, say, people who are unrestrained, un, not virtuous, not having integrity. Um, you want to, you have to those are the world is full of people like that, and you learn how to negotiate skillfully in occasions, but it's also where the precepts are really important, one's own foundation, and then how much do I, and then how much do I take on, and do I need to take on somebody's unskillfulness? Do I? How much am I owning that or identifying with it? And Mr. Rose said, well, no one said, yeah, not my monkey, not my circus. And say there, people are creating the conditions for their own suffering and the suffering of other people, and that's where compassion is needed. And that's where, see, discernment is needed so that we can apply compassion. But it doesn't mean we necessarily need to be engaged. Uh, one, or if we have to be engaged, how do we engage in a way that is compassionate and is is wise? Those are some reflections. It's 8:13. Probably we've had a full evening. Thank you all, and I guess Friday morning reflection and Q&A is the next thing. Just I'll wish everyone well. Any announcements that we need to be? Yeah, we're still on a online for foreseeable future.
Yeah, holding pattern for any in-person gatherings on Tuesday nights in White Salmon. Just waiting to see how things turn out over the next bit of time. So stay tuned on that.
Stay tuned.
One just kind of repetitive announcement. Just if you are experiencing any ads on YouTube, our YouTube streaming here, please do let us know by sending an email to hermitage@abayagiri.org. We've had a couple of responses for people who have, only two so far, who have been experiencing ads, and I forwarded them on to Ajahn Sudanto, who's kind of monitoring it. So please do let us know if that's happening.
Okay, great. Okay, take care, everyone.